Now, good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, December 28th, 2020, and you are witnessing live the first ever Forward Maryland End of Year Awards Spectacular. My name is Bill Woodcock, coming to you live from the Slusho Center in Columbia, Maryland.
And I'm Jason Booms, also coming to you live from a very adjacent location.
And we are here tonight to honor the best, the worst, the ugliest, and the just plain messed up of the year 2020 in local politics, state politics, national politics, global politics, theoretical politics, and community affairs. Before we begin tonight's show, we will warn all of you watching and or listening to this podcast that there will be strobe lights, there will be trigger words, there will be portions unsuitable for all segments of the viewing audience. Please keep that in consideration and enjoy tonight's broadcast. And we would like to thank the Slusho Community Orchestra for their rendition of their specially crafted theme for the Forward Maryland Podcast Awards this evening. However, at this point, we must go to our first award. And with the first award winner, I would like to recognize my co-host and compatriot on this great ride, Jason Booms.
Well, thank you, Bill. And first of all, I would like to thank that symphony orchestra for stepping up at the last minute. We had briefly booked Tepid Pockets, which of course is the Eastern Shore's hottest ska band, but they had to pull out due to existing engagements. So with that, a big thank you to the good folks at Slusho. For the first award, and this really, given the fact that this has been a year, more likely to be remembered, I would say, for its tragedies and its triumphs. We nonetheless wanted to take the opportunity to recognize some of the folks in our community who have made a profound difference. I think it's fair to say. And this is why this is our first annual Sudden Impact Award, which is bestowed upon the individual or organization who has made such an impact, particularly those who are newcomers to the space, who have really established themselves in the Howard County firmament, my gosh, pardon me, as players to be reckoned with. And for this category, we have not one but two awards to hand out. It was just so close. It came down to a tie. There were lawsuits. We went to the Supreme Court, and it was ruled a tie. So there's no other way around it. And these awards go to the Howard County Progress Reports own Jenny Salpietro, and Columbia Community Care and Erica Chavaria. I want to say a couple of notes on. Oh, sorry, did I interrupt the applause? I clearly heard applause, so I can only assume that I will move on.
Yeah, there was applause, sir.
All right. For Howard County Progress Report, obviously within the greater blogosphere community and local journalism, made an immediate impact with one of the very first blog posts playing a significant role in a Board of Education race, actually helping facilitate the exit of one particular candidate. And that was within, it felt like minutes of her appearing on the scene, having that level of impact. Also, her Hall of Shame is, I think, quickly become a must-read column whenever she posts an update to that particular blog. So again, Howard County Progress Report definitely deserving a place as having a sudden impact in our Howard County lives. Columbia Community Care obviously was an organization formed out of a desperate situation, given how hard the COVID-19 pandemic was hitting our community, and a number of people finding themselves in need of the fundamental necessities in life: food, clothing. And Erica Chavaria and the Columbia Community Care folks who believe strongly in the mission and cause of mutual aid absolutely stepped up, filled some critical gaps for individuals just trying to get through the extremely tough situation, which is still ongoing. And they did absolutely amazing work, serving thousands of people, and really getting exceptionally well organized and finding what people needed. And so there's no way that you cannot talk about 2020 and community aid efforts without having Columbia Community Care as part of the conversation. So I think in this case, two well-deserved awards. And also, I would be remiss to mention the Columbia Community Care Peace and Justice Center, which is in its planning stages. And I would strongly encourage folks to go to columbiacare.live for more information on what the organization is doing and what's going on with this potential Peace and Justice Center, which ideally would be located right here in Wild Lake. So folks, I strongly encourage everyone to both read the blog and check out what CCC are doing in 2021.
And Jason, awards well deserved. I could not agree more with both. Thank you for bringing up the Columbia Community Care Peace and Justice Center. I was going to make that mention myself, but let me speak a little bit about the Howard County Progress Report. You know, this has been a great year for new local bloggers. There was an even newer blogger on the scene, gentleman named Jeremy Damu with the Meriwether Post, who keeps up the good work, maybe up for consideration in this award show in 2021. Mm-hmm. But there's very little doubt that Jenny Solpietro's blog took over the political conversation in the year 2020. And it was not just because there were other bloggers on the scene who abdicated that responsibility, but she went ahead and grabbed it, and she truly gave balanced views and fair-minded approaches to the various candidates. She is not an unbiased commentator, nor does she claim to be, and not every commentator in Howard County can claim such a thing. And her writing is very passionate, very blunt, very strong. There's no doubt where she was. So an award very well earned, and looking forward to many more wonderful things from this blog in the year to come. And so let's give just another round of applause. And apparently the crowd has grown.
Bill, I didn't just hear one of the people in the audience say, "I want you to want me," did I? I thought I heard something.
I think you might have. We are back from the bar. The bar has run out of sour mix, and they're coming back into their seats just in time for the second award, which is my honor to announce the best political story of 2020. 2020 was a year so big in so many ways that the political stories had to have categorizations: federal, state, and local. For the federal, and this is late breaking news, Jason, I'm going to call this a tie between the Biden-Harris win during a political year that frankly was not as good for the Democrats as winning the presidency would make it appear, and the rebirth or rejuvenation, as one might say, of the Black Lives Matter / social justice movement, permeating much more pervasively through our national culture as it did when it first came to prominence 4 or 5 years ago. You know, when you have NASCAR cars with Black Lives Matter and NASCAR drivers saying Black Lives Matter, you're making a little bit more of an impact. And the momentum that the movement has gained over the summer kind of took a little bit of a backseat because of the election. But with the election of Vice President-elect Harris and President-elect Biden, hopefully it will pick up steam again next year, as there has still been too little and no justice for too many people lost. In the state of Maryland, the big story is maybe an unreported story: the corruption of Governor Larry Hogan on two fronts. Not just his failure in the construction of the Purple Line between Montgomery and Prince George's counties. It's hundreds of millions of dollars overrun, years behind schedule, but also the funneling of his a lot of state contracts into the construction companies that Hogan has placed in the blind trust ever since he's become governor. It's been an underreported thing. And for those of you who are aficionados of the Baltimore Sun, I'd really like to understand why our local Maryland newspaper of record, and for that matter, the Washington Post, isn't on top of this story and isn't exposing this governor as the fraud that he is. In local politics, there are several terrific stories: election of a new mayor and new city council in Baltimore City. In Montgomery and Howard counties, the anti-redistricting, anti-school diversity sentiment that exposed themselves this year in school board races in the respective counties, and gubernatorial speculation for 2022 that's centered around Comptroller Peter Franchot, county executives Angela Also Brooks in Prince George's County, John Olszewski in Baltimore County, and on the Republican side, County Executive Barry Glassman in Harford County, former state delegate from Frederick and current head of the Department of Commerce, former Secretary of Labor for Maryland, Kelly Schultz, and Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford. So lots of stories in 2020, which shall all have legs in 21.
I just want to chime in very quickly on that. And I do think from a federal perspective, and this actually relates in some ways to the state issue you raised. In this case, I'm specifically talking about the corruption of democracy. It's a very unfortunate story, but nonetheless, I think one that must be told when talking about 2020 and the Trump administration. Is obviously being something that we've had to live with now for almost 4 years, and thank God that'll be wrapping up soon. And then one organization tying into Black Lives Matter and just thinking about questions of justice, and I think youth really also took a leading role in many ways in 2020. Locally, there was the HOCO for Justice organization that did an excellent job pulling together a mass rally under very trying circumstances and being a voice for social justice in Howard County. I do think they also merit mention as well.
I would have thought you would have brought them up under the next award.
Well, the next award has a slightly different focus to it. This is one, and heaven forbid we get too insular. But or too insidery, but nonetheless, it was important enough for us to be able to come up with the award, the Jim Croce Memorial Award for Distinguished Operators, and not that we're dating ourselves at all with that reference, but
we place this call.
What about a dime and an operator? But nonetheless, there are a couple of, out of many possibilities, although they were fewer than you'd see in a presidential election cycle in terms of political campaigns in 2020, or non-presidential cycle. In Maryland, a lot of our action is with, the state assembly races. Congressional, of course, comes around every 2 years, but in the presidential, it's presidential and Board of Education for the most part. But there are a couple of individuals who really stood out to us as doing exemplary work within the space of being political operators. And I wanted to cite two by name First goes out to Richard Deshay Elliott, who has, although young himself, has been involved in already numerous political campaigns, has already launched his own for state delegate in PG County. The precise district eludes me at the moment. I'm sure our fact checkers can get that at some point. He also did he also did prominent work on behalf of Jill Carter's campaign, for example, earlier on in her bid for Congress. And also, I would like to recognize Rebecca Aaron for doing communications work on behalf of once and again current member of Congress, Kwesi Mfume, and his successful primary and general elections. So Rebecca Aaron, kudos for her efforts in shaping the communication strategy of that successful congressional campaign.
And may I offer also congratulations to both of these very deserving award winners. The crowd is again going wild. And as point of fact, Jason, the fact checkers have come back to me. And in fact, Richard Deshay Elliott is running for House of Delegates in the 24th district.
That's right.
Prince George's County, although with whatever is going on with redistricting for the state of Maryland next year, who knows where the hell he's going to wind up running. But very nice picture of Richard on this reference that our fact checkers pulled up. I will personally commend that he is wearing an actual Washington Bullets baseball hat, as I have no idea who or what the Washington Wizards ever were. And Rebecca Aaron's a good egg, known her for some time myself. So kudos to her, and 3 huzzahs to both of these nominees. Now, as we go into the 4th award, the 4th award, as we come up on our first commercial break, and we're running short on time, the best right-wing Republican and moderate Republican clothing award goes to Maryland Governor Larry Hogan. Look, I understand that people tried to have a big kumbaya moment during the pandemic with Hogan's press conferences about, this is what we have to do to stop the spread. He seemed like he was treating the virus a little bit more aggressively than some of his Republican counterparts. He seemed like, as was like a Mike DeWine in Ohio, more rational and more reasonable in terms of how he managed the pandemic. But anybody who thinks that over like the last 2 to 3 months, how do I say it, is smoking crack. Anybody who believes that this guy is a true Republican moderate doesn't have much of a clue. This is still the governor who killed the red line, and with it, not just mass transportation, but incredible amounts of economic opportunity in Baltimore City. Anybody, who wants to blame the Democrat mayors for their corruption and for the reason why Baltimore has the problems it does, I'm not saying that those mayors were very good and that they're not culpable in any way. But when the governor kills a $1.5 billion project that was already funded, that's pretty much a gut shot to the city that no amount of tax revenue is going to make up. So he did that. About the only good thing he has done is lower tolls on the bridges and tunnels. That's pretty much about it. But then also see my comments before about the amount of graft, plus also all the vetoes that he's had, many of which have been overridden, but not all of which have been overridden by the state legislature. That hurts everyday Marylanders. And also, let's not forget his total bumbling of the state's unemployment website. And those of you who were around and can remember back to 2014 will remember how he hung the failure of the state's Obamacare website around Anthony Brown's neck, yet he somehow gets a free pass on the unemployment website. So, Governor Hogan, you win.
in a rare win in a category, frankly. I mean, who else would we have potential? Whose name would we have thrown up there? I mean, there's so few Republicans are even pretending to be moderates. Really, really a tough category to find anyone else of any discernible quality. But in this case, Hogan, I think, was the right call.
Well, awards 5 through 10 are brought to you by another noted sponsor of the podcast and friend of the podcast, Red Wigglers, the Cadillac of Worms. We go back to you for award number 5.
And they keep on wiggling. All right, for this next award, the Wearing Shades Award in honor of the band Timbuk 3. Look it up if you don't know it. This really is sort of a local / state focused award, I would say, given to those whose futures look amazingly bright. And there were 3 individuals that I think really stood out the most. I'm gonna say one, perhaps because I'm too much of a homer in this regard, but I think one stood slightly above the others in the field of the 3 finalists. One would be Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, already establishing herself as a visible and vocal leader in the Capitol, and hasn't, on absolute terms, hasn't held public office for that long a time, but nonetheless is coming to positions of prominence, dealing with some serious issues and on criminal justice reform and other aspects of Maryland public policy. A former guest of ours, Heather Yes and Bagnall from District 33, Anne Arundel County, I think has demonstrated the political skills to be quite a serious player in Maryland politics for some time. And finally, former U.S. Secretary of Education, Dr. John King Jr., who's already established an advocacy group for Maryland and is rumored to be looking seriously at a gubernatorial run himself in 2022. Also another serious figure who has a very bright future. If I had to rank all 3, I would put Vanessa Atterbury just above Dr. King and Delegate Bagnall. But that's where my votes stand. Back to you, Ben.
And deserving winners all. So I will speak a bit to Delegate Bagnall's cause in that her already declared Republican opponent for her seat in District 33, which in fact is a split district between Democrats and Republicans. She's the Dem, of the 3 delegates. Is a person who organized a Trump boat rally on the Magathie River during the fall campaign. So clearly a Hogan moderate Republican type there, folks. So Heather Bagnall is a great lady. We were very happy to have her on the podcast. Very unconventional approach or entry into politics. She manages a theater company and is herself an actress and a performer. So great background, and it's very rare that you have a true outsider get into politics and win. People who claim they're outsiders, 9 times out of 10, they're really insiders. They have a ton of connections, but she is not one. So if you have a few shekels to throw her way between now and 2022, it would be very worthwhile. And Delegate Atterbury and Dr. King also very worthwhile. So we now go into a slightly more introspective and home base based phase of tonight's program, as we look at a lot of things that happened in our very own County of Howard over the next several awards. The first award, which is my honor to announce this evening, is the It Seemed Like a Good Idea at the Time Award. And the winner of that award is the Forward Maryland Podcast.
Yes!
Who's a
Yeah!
co-hosting. So what did we do to earn this award? Well, for those of you who may or may not remember, on March the 7th of 2020, we co-hosted along with another local blogger slash podcaster slash whatever that person does, and a number of, well, our intention was that we were the sole co-host of this event, along with this other blogger slash podcaster, of a forum for Howard County Board of Education candidates. Little did we realize that in the ensuing weeks, our co-host or co-sponsor had enlisted every fringy Fruit Loop group in Howard County who hated things to also co-sponsor this event. So let's just say we were not that comfortable showing up down there with all of these hateful people. And there was, like many a candidate forum goes, more candidates and more supporters and more sponsors than there were actual voters. Jason, I believe we counted the number of actual voters there in the low double digits. And I mean the first number being a 1, people who were not connected with any other sort of campaign. And, pretty much the crowd reaction after the event could be summarized as this. And then 5 days later, the world shut down.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for for joining me as co-winners of this prestigious award. I will say this, and this is in the interest of being as nice as I humanly can be.
That's not very nice.
Well, it's new to me. Nothing against the other blogger or podcaster. Yes, we were, I think, a bit surprised by some of the other organizations that decided to join in. I have to say, as I looked around the room as people were filing in, I couldn't help but notice, my God, there's a lot of people I am currently not speaking with, but which is great. But I do think perhaps those folks that remain undecided, both of them, probably had a really good time getting to hear directly from the candidates, since it was an excellent opportunity to have those conversations. But in retrospect, knowing what we know now, I think we probably should have taken a big pass on that
one. As the award states, it seemed like a good idea. Back to you, sir.
Oh, God. Well, and again, as you noted, following up on our theme of highly local awards, this one is the Step Away from the Keyboard edition award, HOCO edition, Step Away from the Keyboard. And we have 4 finalists, all well-deserving of this award. The first one goes to the finalist is Scott E. for Midnight Ellipses. The second finalist is Harry Dunbar for Stop Me If You Heard This Before. The third finalist. Say what?
An oldie but a goodie.
Oh, God. It's just, there's a timelessness with his work.
It's like anytime Brown Eyed Girl comes on the radio.
you just got to go for it. The third finalist is one Jason Booms, who is nominated for his And the Horse You Rode In On body of work over the course of 2020. And finally, Stephen Keller, nominated for anything.
What does that mean? Nominated for anything?
Anything that Stephen Keller wrote in 2020 was so quality, it nominated him for the Step Away from the Keyboard Award.
So it's not everything, it's anything?
Anything, well, anything and everything, I guess, from that perspective, that Steve Keller wrote in 2020 and posted in a public forum, such as social media, earned him enough in and of itself to be nominated for this award. And the winner, I have goosebumps. I don't know about you.
I do.
The winner is Steve Keller for anything.
Anything! Yes! Anything, 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 anything.
So let's hope he's stepping away from the keyboard at this very minute.
Unfortunately, my Zoom account does not have enough storage for Steve Keller's acceptance speech. So we will simply move on to the next award. And the next award, Steve, you may not want to sit down yet. Is well, not yet, Steve. Steve, you can take the next couple off. What am I saying? We decided to throw back into both of our radical past. Well, who are we kidding? Radical as in people who were radical before we were both born. Incidentally, that machine kills fascists, folks.
Just a big fan of Woody Guthrie.
Absolutely. So this is the Latter Day Abby Hoffman Award, because as we saw this year, the rhetoric and the level of protest was amped up in Howard County. So this is yet another local award. And that award goes to the protesters last week at a certain Board of Education member's house. I won't say who, but anybody watching and or listening to this podcast production will know of which we speak. So there was a pop-up protest last week in Howard County where some people just decided they didn't have anything to do. They didn't want to go over to Starbucks. They were not social distancing. And they said, hell, let's have a protest. And they went over from the Board of Education headquarters over to this board member's house with their M Ford SUVs, their Michael Kors coats, their $200 hairdos, and placards with such radical, insanely leftist propaganda as use reasonable metrics written on them in magic marker. However, their Louboutins were moved off of any private property by Hoco's finest, who showed up and ensured that the rabid wall of protesters was either on the sidewalk or in the street. In other words, a public right of way. Jason, I've never never heard of a more ridiculous thing in my life. I read that there was discussion about this on social media. And yeah, I mean, somebody we both know wrote about how, it's okay to protest at public officials' private residence. And I have to respectfully disagree with that person. There are levels of scale here. And the school board members in Howard County, if you accept that they work 20 hours a week on average on their jobs and in the school board, which I think is probably a low number for each of them, they make $15 an hour. So they barely earn a living wage, having this massive responsibility over $1 billion budget and 59,000 kids' education. So, once again, I mean, there's a bunch of people in this county who don't get their way, and they have resources, and they want to fight the fact that they didn't get their way. And the way that they're doing this is by being bitter and mean and hostile. And, just by screaming, we didn't get our way for long enough, they think, this bunch of Karens and Todds think that they're going to get away with it. And they're not. They're wrong. They're ridiculous. They're anti-equity. They're anti-diversity. They're anti-inclusion. And their values are, frankly, not values that not only this community should reject, but this country should reject. So, they can stay off of the streets. They can go back to their QAnon theories and all their other nonsense, and they can just go away.
Yeah, and I would love to do a Venn diagram between the reopeners, especially those that we saw marching earlier this year in places like Ellicott City, with the anti-redistricting people, to see how closely some of those values and individuals align on that issue. It's been reprehensible as far as behavior is concerned. I mean, there's a lot of folks I disagree with, but just the idea of going to someone's home, creating a ruckus, not only for them, but for their neighbors as well, just trying to live their lives. It seems rude and extremely inappropriate to me. So I do think the in this what is the Latter Day Abby Hoffman Award we're calling it,
Yes.
is yes a very well deserved for this group of individuals, who also, despite purporting to stand firm for principles, seem awful snowflakey when left to their own devices, and quickly wilt in the sun, as far as snowflakes wilt. So excellent choice, I think, for that award, Bill.
They are quite sensitive. And on the issue of sensitivity, I defer to you for the next award, again with a Howard County flavor.
All right. This is the Looks Better Now / Kicking Themselves Award for 2020. And this award probably could go back for a couple of years, but you'd have to imagine this particular individual is really kicking themselves now. And this really has a state and local focus that goes out to former Howard County executive Alan Kittleman.
I don't have a gasp sound effect.
Now, why should Alan Kittleman, number one, why does he look better? Well, he was a county executive before COVID, which I'm sure harkens us all back to slightly better times. And plus his reputation for being, and by the way, I was air quoting there, for being a fundamentally nice guy. I'm sure a lot of folks look back to the halcyon days of 5 years ago and say, well, he was one of the good politicians, despite the fact that his actual track record says something different. But I also want to join that with the Looks Better Now, with the Kicking Themselves Award, on the following basis. Number one, I think had he decided to run for governor, he had a really good shot at the Republican nomination last time, or a couple of times around, I guess, in place of Larry Hogan, who had no discernible political skills other than a moderately decent resume. And so we're looking at a situation where this political figure could have ascended to the governorship, and frankly, maybe someone who's in the conversation for 2024. As we know, political parties sometimes like to look at what didn't work and correct themselves. I'm not sure if a party that's as deeply Trumpist as the Republican Party currently is would sway to someone like an Alan Kittleman, but he may have looked like a more appealing option to a Republican Party looking to rebrand itself, particularly after so many years of Trump. So in that regard, I think Alan Kittleman, people may remember him fondly and think, oh, well, he may be someone to watch for a future office, if the Maryland Party perhaps gets some sort of, sense knocked into it, maybe he might have a future once again.
Well, that is quite an interesting award, I have to say. Thinking back, and I was going to use the word halcyon, but you beat me to it, but I just used it, so it's all good. So thinking back to the Republican gubernatorial primary of 2014, all the conventional Republican money was on David Craig, the Harford County executive.
Yeah.
And this is why then State Senator Kittleman decided to take his shot at Howard County executive instead, because of his friendship with David Craig. But I knew, and several other people whose opinions I respect knew, that this person, Larry Hogan, was not somebody to be trifled with. And as it turns out, he wound up beating Craig, going away.
Yeah.
And one has to wonder, to your point, if with Kittleman in the equation and with him still having a lot of currency with Republican legislators at the time, although even then I would submit that the caucus was starting to go farther to Kittleman's right than where he was, that he would have been successful in that campaign. Still, it is good fodder for conversation. And I will also agree with you. I'm not. Well, I'll say this. I don't think you addressed this directly. I'm not sure. There are some jokers in Howard County who like to think that they are the fair arbiters, that they see both sides and they understand where both sides are coming from. These people are full of shit because they deny their own bias. And we all have bias. You have bias. I have bias. Each of us has our own bias. Just the fact of life. So it's these sorts of people and their ilk who give Alan Kittleman credit for being a nice guy. Being a nice guy is not a virtue, it is part of a job description. I believe that pretty much all of us in our daily life, I mean, you and I certainly don't do this for a living. We are required to be civil, to be decent, to be good people, to be personable,
That's what that's what HR tells me. I don't know.
to be engaging. Being a nice guy is not an extra. So when I hear people harken back, because they feel that they're not getting their way under a Democratic administration in Howard County, they want to say, oh well, that Alan Kittleman, he listened to both sides. He's a real nice guy. Well, what is it else that he would do? And so methinks that these people are not just looking through rose-colored glasses, but about every flower in the garden colored glasses when we're talking about this person's virtues.
Agreed.
Plus he did appoint a couple of racists to local boards and commissions. Let's not
which cannot be forgotten. Absolutely. If the record is written, let it also show that.
So back again, we go to Howard County. And Steve, this is the time where you want to get up from the table. We're telegraphing, but there is an award we created special for this year, and in fact, it is rare. It is said that the award seeks the awardee, not that the awardee seeks the award. However, Jason, as with all things in life, sometimes exceptions must be made. Sometimes the needs of the one do outweigh the needs of the many. Sometimes the awardee seeks the award. Not only in this case has the awardee sought the award, the awardee has deserved the award, and the awardee has earned the award, hard earned the award. To the Facebook group, Howard County Neighbors United, we bestow upon you the award of the Facebook group whose membership should be swallowed into an infinite void of torment. I have never seen a bigger waste of electrons, time, life force, or spiritual makeup than the Howard County Neighbors United group. Being around in politics since, unfortunately, the 80s, I have seen many organizations that portray themselves and name themselves as something that they're not. The Moral Majority, the Family Research Council, the Christian Coalition. I have never seen an organization quite like this. Neighbors United. It should be Neighbors United, unless if you're black, unless if you're brown, unless if you're not upper middle class, unless if you don't speak English, unless if you're gay, unless if you're transgender, unless if you're a lesbian, unless if you're poor, unless many, many things. It has seemed to be a dumping ground for faux intelligentsia of mostly the Caucasian, although there is an element of South Asian influence in this news group that just finds the bad in everything. As guest of Forward Maryland in 2020, Bob Flanagan once said, "They make lemons out of lemonade." He did not say that about the group, however. He said that about something else. So this group is piss poor. I'm not sure why I've ever wasted my time to join it and engage with it. By the way, I'm still waiting for the racist from the reopened Howard County rally to sit down with me with a cup of coffee to explain his T-shirts about the Howard County executive. I was promised that would happen. I was promised coffee. I did not get coffee. So little Stevie Keller is the moderator de force with this. What a waste of time that you brought upon this community, Steve. This is just a tremendous disservice. And you have earned my personal condemnation.
If you don't mind, I would like to pile on. I should say, share my commentary. As far as this particular group is concerned, I think we see on full display a level of galloping douchebaggery that has perhaps not been seen in Howard County in nigh going on 60, 70 years. I guess the most troublesome element to it, and by the way, I'm proud to say that I was banned from the group. I've saved a lot of time as a result of that, so thanks whoever kicked me out. My concern is that unfortunately the infection seems to be spreading because Stephen Keller couldn't leave it at just one group. He had to take it to two, and he's now, I believe, one of the co-moderators of the Better Howard Together group as well, unless I'm mistaken. And I think we're going to see the same sort of, well, I think we had seen some of the same sort of editorial content that's managed to slime its way over from the Neighbors United group into Better Howard Together, which is very unfortunate, given my understanding of the original intention of the Better Howard Together group.
Yes, considering that I thought that latter group was supposed to be nonpartisan and uplifting.
Not so much. No.
Well,
but speaking of uplifting, the next category is extremely uplifting.
I was going to say, Jason, we're at the halfway point, and awards 11 through 15 are brought to you by your fine local Oldsmobile dealers. So, Jason, give us something as Warrant sang, or perhaps it was Poison. Give us something to believe in.
Oh, it's going to bother me all day unless I figure out who does that.
The fact checkers are on it.
It'll come to me. This year's profiling courage was simultaneously challenging yet amazingly easy to sort out. I would like to give a shout out to a couple of individuals who, while not winners of this award, I think nonetheless demonstrated a certain degree of tenacity under adversity. And all of them, by the way, pertain to the Howard County Board of Education, perhaps once again showing the level of invective being hurled around in our society that, Board of Education members have to, are on the receiving end of so much garbage that they will become nominated for this award. Two names that before I announce the winner of this award, I would like to point out Kirsten Coombs, who I thought ran a strong primary campaign and took a lot of heat coming in her direction. And also one of the folks she ran against, Jen Mallow. I think if you take a look at the level of criticism directed towards her specifically you'd have to say she would be a very strong contender for the winner of this award in most normal years. But I think we can all say that 2020 was far from a normal year. And with that, the winner of the Profile and Courage Award goes to our very own student member of the board, Zach Kung, who has now been embroiled for doing his job, has now been embroiled in this controversy due to some of the very folks that we've talked about a bit earlier, that are litigious, doofi, that are seeking to challenge a legitimate post and a legitimate vote just because they don't like the outcomes. So they now decided to, again, demonstrate what utter fools they are by targeting a high school student and his ability to participate meaningfully in the process and being a voice of the student, which he's done extraordinarily well. It's a damn shame he has to go through this, but I would like to single him out for demonstrating a great deal of courage throughout this entire controversy.
Well, those are tremendous people to recognize, both in your honorable mentions and then also with your awardee. As you well know, because I have talked about it ad nauseum, I am a product of the Howard County Public School System, and I'm not sure that I recall there being a student school board member in the 80s. I seem to remember that that was a thing that we thought would be a pipe dream, that this thing would never happen. And then it did happen. And then that person was able to have a voice. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the original student board members just sat there and pretty much did nothing. And then that person was allowed to have a voice. And then in more recent years, they were allowed to have a vote. And they should be allowed to vote. I believe there are proper guardrails put up in place. But where I went to college at a certain prestigious private school in Baltimore. We have 4 members of the board of trustees who are the young trustees who are elected by each year's graduating class, and they have a full vote as a member of the board of trustees, each of the 4 of them. And it's a terrific experience. Why don't we have this? Of course we do. Yet there are these yippies who want to take it away because, as you said, this person is not voting in their way. And where have we seen this before? Conservative people attempting to overturn a due popular election, in this case amongst the students of Howard County. So Zach, you're probably getting I don't know you. You're probably getting a little bit more of an education than perhaps you bargained for. But hopefully these lessons will help you later in life. And my urging to you, young man, would be not to get pulled down by this negativity. People are in general much better than this.
Exactly.
And to the next award, we go to another award where indeed the awardee drove the award.
I thought it was a tough competition, quite frankly.
It was. There were several people we had to look at closely.
Yeah.
But in the end, I mean, one stood, I don't know, top of the hairline above all other comers, maybe. I mean, I know I have to buy you lunch in order for giving out this guy this award. But okay. Anyway, we had a lot of good guests this year.
We did.
And there were some who were data scientists, some with PhDs in economics, some who were land use experts, some who were ham radio operators, some who were enthusiasts of Mars. I mean, you like Mars.
Oh, Mars is great.
Mars. Second favorite planet.
Oh, we're talking about Bruno Mars?
No, the planet Mars.
Mars bar.
Mars the planet.
Okay, I got it.
And some who are noted local vampires.
Mhm.
So this award goes to the best podcast performance by a data scientist with a PhD in economics, who is also a land use expert, ham radio operator, Mars enthusiast, and noted local vampire. He is Dr. James Patrick Howard II. And let's all give him a big huzzah. Whoa, all of a sudden.
Looking for sound effects?
Oh, no, we're not looking for sound effects. That's our audience. Oh my God.
Security, can we get security in here?
Test pattern. There we go.
Oh man.
Anyway, to Jamie Howard, I say, well done.
The second year of that award is going to be tough. I know the competition is going to come out of the woodwork.
May have been one and only. May have been a one and done. May have been like the Bullets winning the NBA championship. One and done. 78. Jason, back to you.
All right. Well, I was going
I have a feeling that one went over like a lead duck. That one's going to get bad reviews tomorrow online.
Well, Chevy Chase, he commemorated the passing of Francisco Franco multiple times. So, who knows what might happen with that award.
Okay.
All right. Well, for this next award, number 13 out of 20 planned, is over 65% of the way there. This is the Comeback Soon Award. This is the award that we give out to someone who held public office, did amazing work in that capacity, no longer serves as an office holder, but we do hope comes back soon, whether it's holding a public office, whether it's serving in another role where they can advocate for the causes that are important to them. And for that, we have two folks that I want to single out for the Comeback Soon Award. And again, wow, we're seeing a really heavy Board of Education focus here. Would be the aforementioned Kirsten Coombs, also for the Comeback Soon Award, as well as Sabina Taj, both of whom recently served on the Howard County Board of Education, both of whom I hope stay extremely active in public affairs, whether it's local, whether it's state, whether it's nationwide, international. We're hoping to see a lot more from Ms. Taj and Ms. Coombs.
Both of these public servants in Howard County, I think it's also appropriate to recognize that Kirsten Coombs is the second openly LGBTQ plus elected official in Howard County, and very unfortunately lost her primary election in 2020. Definitely would have been a better candidate than the other candidate who was selected to run alongside with Jen Mallow for that District 4 spot. But the voters of District 4 did what they did, so that happened. And then Sabina Taj opted not to run again after only 2 short years on the Howard County Board of Education for the District 1 spot. So very unfortunate series of events, sequences of events that unfolded for both of them. And I'm not saying this to disparage anybody else, but Jason, I think you and I both know that the best people don't always win in politics. And I think the case could be made for both of these individuals that the better person, someone better than them, did not necessarily win election, and that's not an aspersion on the people who are in those seats now. It is simply a realization of the reality that both of these women faced. So I too join you in wishes for a good future for both of them, in their public and private lives.
Before we move on to the next category, though, I would like to add one late breaking element.
Oh, yeah.
The wrinkle to
I like it.
the wrinkle to this award, the comeback soon, and there is the run soon corollary award.
Run soon.
That I would like to award to Annie Hader Shaw for being someone who's currently active in Howard County politics and public affairs. I think it would make a fantastic candidate for public office, regardless of what office that she seeks. So again, Annie Hader Shaw is my choice for run and run soon.
Ooh, already some foreshadowing for the sequel. I like it. With thus ends our Howard County focused portion of this awards podcast. We'll now go back into a state focus and maybe even going into a national focus. So it is my honor this evening to announce the Step Away from the Keyboard Edition State Level Award. Your nominees are the Maryland Republican Party and its constituent state central committees for holding a series of very in touch with everyday Maryland events during the year, gun raffles, Trump boat cruises and flotillas, the welcoming party outside of Walter Reed Military Hospital when Trump had COVID, many other such high quality events that really spoke to their in touch nature with working Marylanders. Governor Larry Hogan, enough said. This person has not been mentioned on tonight's podcast thus far, which is just amazing.
70 minutes in. Wow.
Seventh district congressional candidate on the Republican side, Kimberly Klacik, otherwise known in some circles as September, but a regular candidate for public office and maker of many a provocative video of wearing very high heels, walking the streets of Baltimore, as is her wont. And the last candidate is a Republican candidate who ran in the 2nd congressional district and lost in the primary election to State Senator Johnny Ray Salling. His name is Tim Fosenbacher. And he suffered a very strange conjunction of evil. Not only did he have a campaign logo, which were 2 eagles flying in formation that made a T and an F logo that looked like something from an American Nazi party, but he also had perhaps the most hate-filled campaign literature about Dutch Ruppersberger, of all people, who, as Jason, I believe you will agree, is not exactly a socialist that I've ever seen in my life. So, I mean, this guy is out there, he's orbiting Uranus. And yes, I went for the 8-year-old joke because it's there. And you know, I don't know where he is, but I'm not happy that he is somewhere. So Tim Fosenbacher is your 4th nominee. The winner of this award is Kim Klacik, because you know, she distinguished herself not for any of the other stuff that I mentioned before, but for claiming that after she got beat by Kwasi Mfume by a count of 73 to 27%, by claiming that the election was stolen from her. And indeed, that there were ballots out there that prove that she was the winner. This after losing by a margin of nearly 3-1. Kim, step away from the keyboard.
I, for one, am a huge fan of her more recent work, where she likes to talk about just the facts. And there was one that featured Senator Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, and the fact that she was of Chinese ancestry and somehow pertained to the Chinese Communist Party. I don't know what the hell she was trying to get at, but it's gems like that that really show you why some folks shouldn't have a Facebook account.
I believe as a noted Facebooker with tens of millions of followers would say, sad.
Very, very.
Case in point. Jason, back to you.
But on a much happier note, and who doesn't like welcoming people back? This next award, the Gabe
Their ticket out.
the Gabe Cotter Vivacious Mustache. Oh, sorry, the Gabe Cotter Welcome Back Award goes to a handful of folks who have either been lifelong residents of Maryland or have been in Maryland long enough to be essentially at their heart, Marylanders of deep and abiding pride. There are three individuals that we want to single out for this particular award. Two of the finalists are Congressman Kwesi Mfume, for obvious reasons, coming back and taking what was his old congressional seat after a rather extended hiatus from holding up public office, although he did run for statewide office since he left in '96, I believe, originally.
I believe you are correct, sir.
Call it that. So he is definitely a nominee worthy of consideration. Also, Mary Miller, I think, has to be given some credit. While not emerging as the Democratic nominee for mayor in Baltimore, she did nonetheless finish a solid third place, running ahead of such illustrious figures as one-time frontrunner Thiero Vignarajah, running better than the incumbent mayor, Jack Young, and running better than TJ Smith, for whatever that'll get you. But nonetheless, running a decent campaign. Not my choice, but there's no getting around the fact she did run a decent campaign for mayor. Bill?
However, the award goes to Jason.
Oh my God. I was building up suspense. Thank you. Perfect setup. The
All
award,
right, I was just hoping you didn't do a Steve Harvey on me.
the award goes to our own Wendy Royalty for coming back. Is there applause? Massive
Well, of
applause?
course there is.
Wendy Royalty.
It's gotten intense. Wendy's on the stage.
Coming back to the great state of Maryland and getting immediately involved again. At first getting involved with the Maryland-based advocacy organization, and now in her new role, where she's working alongside Howard County Council Member Liz Walsh, District 1. So already coming back, making a big difference in people's lives. So welcome back, Wendy Royalty.
And well deserved. Our next award is the State of Maryland Sartorial Achievement Award. And we have a tie, Jason,
Oh my gosh.
for this award. I believe like a comet and its tail, Comet Kahutek, or perhaps Hale-Bopp, going around the sun, picking up people and skirting them off to the netherworld. Kim Klasik's high heels have earned a Sartorial Achievement Award for the year 2020, as was staying in the 7th District, Congressman Kwesi Mfume's turtleneck, which he made popular as a talk show host on WBAL television in Baltimore during his time between his first and second congressional stints. He also popularized the turtleneck during his presidency of the National NAACP. And it's good to see that back again. I don't know where the turtleneck has been in the 2020s, or for that matter, in the 2010s. And if memory serves, maybe even the 2000s. But it is good to see it back, is it not?
there's a timelessness to the congressman's look that's and it's very much on brand. I think is he's a policymaker, but he's got a bit of an edge. He's not your average tie wearing office holder. And it, of course, was very prominently featured in all of the ads I saw, which I think helped facilitate some recognition of a figure who's been out of the public eye, I would say, at least for a few years in District 7. So seeing a familiar face with a familiar look is always a plus. And let's face it, the Facebook group Maryland Politics would not be the same if there wasn't the relatively frequent mention of Kim Klasik's shoe wear of choice. For giving us so much to talk about, we have to give a kudos to Kim for that.
Indeed. And I forgot to mention that awards 16 through 20 are sponsored by Kool-Aid. Enjoy the new Trump Orange flavor. Available only in flyover country. Trump Orange on your store shelves today from Kool-Aid.
Nice. Oh gosh. Well, as we start getting down to some of the meteor awards. I mean, we've had a lot of already quite hefty and frankly very zesty awards. But as we're winding down, it would be remiss for us not to take a moment and look at not so much the up and comers, but to think about those people who are leaving the scene, not for any bad reasons, but these are people that are what we call our down and goers. They're stepping away from public life, or they are, but they're not aware of it yet. But nonetheless, these are people that have served in one capacity or another and have decided it's time to move on with the next phase of their lives. The first one would be Maryland Senate President for Life, Mike Miller. I think, and obviously, we're not making fun. We're well aware of the fact that he is dealing with some very serious health challenges. Nonetheless, I think it is important to note that he is stepped aside already from being Senate President in January 2020. He's stepping aside from his emeritus role that he received.
Aside from an emeritus role.
You can. He is that powerful. Someone who began their service as Senate President while I was still in high school, to give you a sense of a time frame. And the fact that he is stepping aside, it has raised a lot of questions about the power of an office, how much power one man should wield, even at the state level. There are some very legitimate questions being raised about the fullness and totality of his legacy. You'll have progressives that can cite positive accomplishments, as well as a number who can also cite areas where he was a bit less than progressive, and what that meant for the legislation that came out of Annapolis. I think we can still safely say we're living in a state where Miller's influence will absolutely be felt still for some time. So in that regard, he really truly isn't going away, but nonetheless stepping down from a more active role. There are two other individuals I'd like to mention that were also finalists for this award, and they would include, again, looking at another statewide figure of statewide import, Boyd Rutherford. Why is he in this category? Well, the lieutenant governor has, I would argue, served capably under Governor Hogan, but there is so much vitriol being hurled at direction of Governor Hogan from the right wing of his party. It is very difficult to see how Boyd Rutherford, being so closely aligned with the governor, can, number one, establish an independent persona of his own without being tagged with some of the unforgettable or unforgivable elements that the conservatives like to attach to Governor Hogan regarding reopening the state and their perceived impact on the economy. It's really difficult to see Boyd Rutherford being able to get that presence that would enable him to obtain the gubernatorial nomination of the Republicans should he decide to go for it. And finally, I would like to recognize Milton Matthews, who is leaving his position as the what's the exec director? Is that
He's the president of the Columbia Association. Some say he may have already left.
Well, I know I've sent him some recent emails that have gone unreplied to. So if Milton wants to reply to those, that would be reassuring to know that he is in fact still with us.
Probably rest assured that that won't be happening.
It will not, I guarantee you. But nonetheless, he's leaving the CA at a very precarious time with the pandemic causing so much economic dislocation. It definitely has had an impact on CA programming, CA staffing, and the ability of the CA to function as intended. And not to mention the fact he leaves behind many questions about the role of the CA within our lives. Sometimes these questions pop up organically. Sometimes these questions pop up as a result of a local controversy, such as the CA deciding to play the role of Grinch regarding access for the Symphony of Lights event.
We're on Christmas.
So I think Milton Matthews does deserve a place as a down and goer, because who knows if he'll stay in Howard County, but he's definitely stepping aside from his role at the CA. But I would say the winner of this category has to be, without a doubt, Mike Miller.
I believe that is a worthy choice, and all kudos are appropriate to Senate President Miller for serving, I believe, the longest in American history, the longest serving head of any state legislative chamber in the nation. So kudos to him. Good wishes for his health, and may his legacy speak for itself. And I think I'm going to leave it right there at that. And as for the other individuals, I had best not comment because I'm going to get myself into a little bit of dirt with this next award, which
can I just say very briefly? I do think that the University of Maryland would be better served by having it known as the Maid Administration Building. And similarly for the other building, which currently has his name on it, if it reverts
the
back.
Senate office building.
Yeah, I would think a more neutral naming might be more appropriate in light of some of Senate President Miller's comments in the past. So leave it at that.
Duly noted. But I bring to you maybe the opposite of the Down and Goer Award, or perhaps at least it sits in another quadrant, the Oh Please Not Again Award, meaning people who are elected officials in Maryland who may be beloved by their natural court constituencies, but who the rest of us are just like, oh, please, not again. So standing in honorable mention for this award is 7th District Congressional Congressman Kweisi Mfume. My God, he's 75. He's older than Congressman Cummings was. Don't we have any talent in West Baltimore who can win this race? I mean, there were very good candidates. I mean, in Howard County, our very own delegate Terry Hill was a very credible and formidable candidate for Congress, but it became very clear on primary night that West Baltimore still holds the power in that, and so we couldn't do any better. I mean, not to disparage Congressman Mfume, but we need some new thought. We need some new leadership in Congress. We need some new vision. And, whether your candidate was Mrs. Cummings or Senator Carter or Mr. Spikes or any other of a number of people, the fellow Higginbotham, the attorney, there were lots of people with great ideas who really didn't get that much play. And
Delegate J.
oh my God.
I couldn't even say the last name.
Dodged. You know, but there were people. So it's a shame that we decided to go for more of the same. Don't you people in the electorate say you want outsiders? Why do you keep going for connected people? I don't get it. The other honorable mention for this award is retiring DNC chair Tom Perez, former Montgomery County Council member, former Secretary of Labor under the Obama administration, who has been rumored to either be wanting to seek the congressional district in the 6th district, should David Trone run for governor, or possibly run for governor himself. I know people who worked at DOL while Tom Perez was there. He did a good job. I know people who lived in Montgomery County while he was a councilman, did a good job. I think he's done a decent job with the DNC. Tom, not again. Find something else to do. But the winner of the Oh Please Not Again award has to go to 1st District Congressman Andy Harris. Who has distinguished himself not by his run for election, because he just ran for re-election again in the 1st district and easily won it again, but his continued dependence upon pulling out the 33 RPM record of the right-wing Republican playbook and just playing the same old songs against tax and spend liberals, against socialists, support the president, make America great again, as well as being one of the 126 dickheads who ought not be seated in the next Congress because they're calling into question the 2020 presidential election. A medical doctor in the Congress who was refusing to wear masks and was backing Trump on masks, who ironically invited me, who lives in the 3rd district. So I don't know if they're doing a little bit of crystal ball reading and looking at redistricting maps, and oh my God, could Howard County wind up in the 1st congressional district?
I would love to see how that's drawn.
It wouldn't be that far. I mean, it wouldn't be that far off, really. Just come on over that bridge, and wouldn't be uglier than the current 3rd district, that's for sure. And you know, he had a town hall on the COVID vaccine. So, but he was only answering questions about the vaccine. I could not ask him whether or not he deserved to sit in the seat for 2 more years. So the Oh Please Not Again award goes to Andy Harris.
Well, I just want to say, and that's the award celebrating his auspicious victory in this category. Well, first of all, he needs to learn the Hippocratic Oath, which he apparently forgot somewhere along the line. I'm really trying to actively avoid swearing at the moment, so I guess I'll cut my comments short. But absolutely well-deserved. Congressman Harris is an embarrassment to the nation, to Maryland, to the Eastern Shore. Should not be serving in office. When you're hanging around, you know, folks who are spouting treasonous nonsense, one would think it'd have the intellectual grasp of saying, "Oh, this might actually be bad," but apparently he lacks that. So you know, whatever.
And his beard looks stupid.
What?
And his beard looks stupid.
Well, we can all agree on that. But speaking of aesthetics, well, partially aesthetics, I guess. This next award, absolutely crucial. And this is not a condemning with faint praise award. This is actually a sincere award of recognition of those folks. Not everything has to be serious, unlike all of our other awards this evening, but the Their Pet Seems Nice award. Now, this award goes out to folks who engaged, whether they was in public service as an office holder or an activist. These are people that just have pets that seem really nice. I don't believe I've actually met any of these pets in person, but based on what I've gleaned from social media, these folks all seem to have fantastic pets. And they are, in no particular old order. Board of Education member Vicky Catronio and her dog Dewey, the Shih Tzu. You also have Cynthia Fikes with two dogs in the running. They're Rocky, the Jack Russell mix, and Bullwinkle, the Staffordshire blah, blah, blah. Well, let's call it mix because I can't read my own handwriting. But Rocky and Bullwinkle, both well-deserving nominees. At the national scene, we also have Joe Biden for Champ and Major, both German Shepherds. One of them, I believe, Major is a rescue dog. So kudos for President-elect Biden. And then finally, we have Byron McFarlane for Chief, a Dalmatian mix. And I will say this, there's no way you can really choose a winner in this category. They're all winners. So to Dewey, to Rocky, to Bullwinkle, to Champ, to Major, and to Chief, I say a collective, you're all very good boys. And hopefully more diversity in next year's nominee.
I detect a bias here.
That's how it was.
Get the award.
Oh, I mean, frankly, I was shocked that that Crush and Tucker did not receive formal nominations for this particular award, but hopefully next year.
Well,
or did they decline like George C. Scott? One or the other.
Well, there was controversy in the household this year because Crush won the Woodcock Household Cat of the Year award, which you may have seen on Facebook, and that created a lot of contention. But then he lost the Woodcock Household Pet of the Year award to Plek, the 8-inch long Plecostomus that I have in my 55-gallon tank, who I bought when he was like about 1 inch long. And he has grown quite big and sturdy over the past 2 years. He is quite a prehistoric beastie. And so kudos to Plek on winning that award. But there was lots of controversy because cats, fish, you know how it is.
Yeah, a lot of bad blood.
Lots of bad blood. And in fact, Tucker Woodcock did appear at the doorway just now, and he mouthed something where the second word was you. So I believe that was directed towards me. So our last award is we have the honor because we did no production number for this, and we know that you out there in viewer or listener land were waiting on a production number, but Jen Terraza never returned my phone call, so what can I say? We have a grand finale, and that is the podcast of the year. Now, Jason, we had many wonderful podcasts, and I mean, they were all good in a number of ways. Erica Strauss Chavaria, her podcast got 20,000 views on social media. It was amazing. We had a terrific podcast with Aaron Camp Mansour, who is Clarence Lamb's assistant, Senator Lamb's assistant, who just recently made it into the class for Emerge Maryland. So I will add her name along with Ani Hayter Shaw as someone we would like to see maybe run for something soon. District 7 independent congressional candidate, Amber Ivy. David Parrish, the author of a book about an unsolved murder here in Oakland Mills over 30 years ago.
By the way, who started me on a spiral of true crimes. So thank you, David Parrish.
Excellent. Former city council candidates, Natasha Gwines and Franker Muller-Paz. Richard Deshay Elliott, who we mentioned. Suzanne Palmer, the Board of Education candidate whose interview with us was cited by many people during the Board of Education campaign in Howard County this year. At the time, Democratic Comptroller nominee, now Baltimore City Comptroller Bill Henry, and Delegate Heather Bagnall. I'm sure you have others, Jason, but damn it, it's hard to pick one.
I do have a couple more I just want to add to the list because, I mean, number one, comptroller and gubernatorial candidate Pete Francho. That was also one I think a lot of people
About 16,000.
chose to listen in on and watch, and hopefully it'll be a consequential podcast like our one with Ms. Palmer. Antonia Barkley Watts, I thought was a good conversation, and frankly, I'd also like to mention any single episode where we had a co-host, Steve Hunt. Definitely stepped up and did a couple of great shows with us. Katja Fort Roden, going back earlier to 2020, did a fantastic hosting gig with us. So those are the ones that stand out for me.
All right. Do we even want to pick one, or do we just want to say huzzah to you all?
I would say huzzah to you all, but there is one where I think there was a clear winner.
And that would be?
That would be for me, Erica Chavaria. Just in terms of overall impact, just how much the Columbia community care, the impact it had in our community. I think, and given as much as she's contributed to the community, she's my winner in the best podcast category.
I would put her up with another one. And I would give you co-podcasts of the year, although all that we mentioned are very strong. But I would say the Columbia Community Care Podcast and also the Oakland Mills Online Group with Amy Brooks and Jessica Mahajan, who, as with Columbia Community Care, this started as a way for kids to be able to do their homework during the pandemic, and it turned into a little mini lyceum of how-tos and adult education mini courses and things that you can do at home and just all sorts of cool stuff. So, to the people, the theme I'm striking is to the people who brightened this very dark year. Thank you, and we were very glad to spotlight some of your awesome work on our little podcast.
Well summed up.
And Jason, I believe that brings us to the end. I would like to thank you for not just a terrific year, but for your continued partnership on this fine podcast production. You came on board and we started tag teaming this thing in September of 2019. And when we stood in front of that wreckage of that little gas bombed out strip center in Columbia, who knew that these fun things would be before us? But hopefully there's much more fun to come in 21. As the Who sang, I got a feeling 21's going to be a good year.
One can only hope. And I do believe it will be a much better year than 2020. So, the stories we will cover.
Indeed. And until then, humble viewers and or listeners, we sign off. Jason, any last words?
No last words outside of the fact that we are already working on booking guests for 2021. Hopefully we'll be officially scheduled very soon. So look for more entertainment coming your way shortly.
And if any of you out there in viewer or listener land wishes to either be a guest yourself or suggest a guest idea, you may send us a message. You can send either Bill Woodcock or Jason Booms a message on Facebook, message the Forward Maryland Facebook page itself. Also, you can watch Forward Maryland on its own YouTube channel. Just search Forward Maryland, like and subscribe, everybody. And with that, I urge you all to keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. And for Jason Booms, I'm Bill Woodcock. Signing off, Happy New Year from all of us on Forward Maryland. Good night and take care. Bye now.